Okay. I think I should reset up. If not, oops. But that's okay. No one watches these streams for the quality. It's all for the nonsense. Anyway, hello everyone. It's your boy, it's Corn. You know, in keeping with tradition, we're gonna figure it would be cool to do a recap stream like we've done before for the Draft League stuff. And we've expanded the scope of the Draft League this season. And by that, I mean it's like, so we've nearly doubled in size. So we've expanded to 2 leagues, just to give a brief rundown of kind of the changes for those who are not familiar. Earlier this year, we ran a draft league. We had about 14 players. It was great, super fun. People really seemed to enjoy it. At least the players did. And we brought it back because we thought it'd be cool. And this time we've expanded, so we've split it into 2 separate divisions. There's the Unova League, and then there's the Kalos League. Regions were picked arbitrarily, just because a couple of the admins and I we just picked a place. So we have 12 players in each. Some returning faces, some new. Skill scope is, I would say, a little bit wider this time around than last season, but I think for the most part, it's still pretty good. And we'll just take a quick look at the draft here. It's maybe a little hard to see, so I'll zoom a touch. Just like last time, you know, we did our draft process. That wasn't streamed. I don't think we even streamed the first one, to be honest, but I don't remember. But we've got some wild fucking drafts this time, and it's kind of rad, actually. Lots of people picking a lot of like a wide variety of things, and I think that's super exciting. And we got some people actually trying out new picks that, you know, previously weren't played last season. I'm thinking like Iron Bundle is a huge one that didn't get picked, and I think in both divisions that ended up going pretty quick here. In Unova, Iron Bundle was like 4th pick or something crazy. It was really fast. And even in the other one, I would say that's about mid-pick for Iron Bundle. And we also had a couple shifts around. We unbanned both Terapagos and Palafin, just to kind of see. And interestingly, I don't think Terapagos got picked in either division. I was wrong. He got picked in Kalos. I don't know who has it though. But it looks like it was actually, I think someone actually had it in Unova, but it got eventually dropped. So it'll be interesting to see how what people do about Terapagos. Palafin, I know, went in both divisions. Pretty much most, if not all, of the 18-19 players actually went this time around, which is really interesting. I guess draft philosophy, people are just picking the high-pointed stuff to kind of ground themselves in a strong core, which I don't think is a bad idea. In Unova, we actually see all of them were picked, all 18-19s. People have some really whack ideas with these mons this time in this, in this pool, so it'll be really cool to see. And in Kalos, actually, Deoxys Speed and Latios were left on the board, which is a little unconventional, at least in my opinion, but, player's choice. We'll see what happens. So, I'm going to go grab the other 2 shithead admins that I don't pay, and we're going to react to the games here in just a second. I'll give you guys a little spoiler here of the schedule. We played through, week 1. It was great. Lots of really cool games. Some not so great, but, that's alright. It is to be expected, and it happens. It's a draft league. Nothing is set. But, we got some new players taking some early wins. We got some returning players, also taking some wins. And actually, there's some really cool games just in the first week alone that I think are going to be pretty fun to spotlight here in just a bit. So let me get my people in here. Hey, it's the
hello.
people I don't pay.
You know, I'm glad you admit to everybody and make it public knowledge that we're not paid.
Nah, no one makes money off this. Not even me. It's okay.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's a
We love
charity.
it here.
Yeah, it's great.
We love it here. We make no money. We just play Pokemon and watch people play Pokemon for free.
Yeah, ain't that crazy? Must be.
Yeah.
Life is a highway. Anyway.
Anyway.
So
Anyway.
week 1 games. We're looking at
Oh,
the
hell yeah.
results right now. I think week 1 had some crazy games. You know, we had. I think maybe my favorite matchup was is Big Kieran, formerly Big Honey, also Kendall's Fajita, playing against the first season champion and actually getting down to a 3-0. And it's a deceptive 3-0 too. Let's put that out there. It was. I think it was really tight.
Yeah, definitely a close 3-0. It wasn't like a
no washout for
washout 3-0.
for our
It was a
boy
real
Big Kieran.
fight. Yeah, it was a real battle. This was not a
Absolutely.
situation where we were not in Flukeville, really, and it wasn't like a complete total washout.
Yeah, it was definitely a real battle, like until it wasn't, but it was a real battle for most of the game.
Oh yeah. I'm quite excited to react to that one. A couple other ones I think were pretty fun. I think actually Mox, you versus Goose was kind of an interesting one. I was actually there watching that game instead of doing my job, and that one was kind of crazy. There's some cool things you get to talk
That one
about
was
in
interesting.
that one.
That was interesting. Yeah. I'm really happy with
Definitely that one's gonna be really cool. And I think looking at some of these results, we got some really narrow wins here. 2 1-0s is kind of intense, and I think most of our 3-0s were never complete washes. It was always like relatively bloody matchups.
Did we talk about the washiest wash of the week though? Or are we gonna wait for us to go over that replay?
I think we'll go over that at the appropriate time. So,
Okay.
how do you let's go through some of these games here, fellas. I'm deciding how we want to go about it. If we want to go in the order that the matches were played, which to be honest I don't remember. I was just gonna kind of scroll and then see who played when. Or we can just go down the line based on the leaderboard, because it's probably easy to hit Control F in Discord.
Yeah, no worries. I'm down for whatever.
Cool. I think we'll just
Doesn't make a difference, I think.
not really. Let's just go in descending order from the leaderboard. So first up we have not a mop versus Haku being one of the returning players.
Ooh.
Okay. This is gonna be funny, and he's in the chat. He's like, no, don't look.
He's here.
Tragically, we are gonna look. I'm sorry. This is the job that we don't get paid for.
This is the fun for us, right? This is fun for us.
Oh yeah, this is for the admin team, if more than anything, to be honest.
We specifically don't get paid to look.
True. The joy is watching people play bad. Speaking of which, hey, there's this game.
Hey, all right.
At first blush, I think the teams are actually kind of interesting. Not a mop made it very clear with his draft prioritization that he's playing Sun and he wants the Sun.
Yeah, don't ask us how he managed to get 2 of the paradox dogs, and also like a sunsetter. That's
one of the things.
I don't know how that happened.
One of the things that we talked about during on draft day and even leading into draft day was, Unova League is the sweaty league. It's the very scrappy. You have a lot of really, really good players. Not saying that there are bad players in the Kalos League, right? But you have really good players, you have high placing players, and you have very hungry players. How Torkoal, G-Fire, and Walking Wake. And I think a really good Chlorophyll Terra Captain got on that team is beyond me. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there.
I think
right?
the stars aligned in like the worst possible way, but for Not a Mop, it was like Christmas because I remember overseeing the draft. I had each of you assigned to a division. I was bouncing back and forth. I saw G-Fire first pick, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of crazy. And then I saw Walking Wake and Torkoal on the wheel, and I was like, how? What?
Not knew when he handshaked the Dragapult to you, Venice, that he was like, my archetype is gonna be
this man had a vision. Yeah,
I'm gonna get Sun no matter what. I was in the same position he was in during the draft, having first pick and then not getting another pick for 22 picks. It's a hard place to be. It's good, right? It gets your kind of team going, right? But that was nuts, and we get to see that here, and it's glorious.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what's also really cool, you know, we have this crazy Suncore, but he's also brought a couple, like an unconventional pick, I think in this Honchkrow. Because to be honest, I don't know what the fuck this does.
So Honchkrow, in my experience, is usually, at least on ladder, a like Scarf or damage boosted Moxie Sweeper.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's usually the main case that I see for it, because you have the strong stab moves like Brave Bird, but you have also boosted Sucker Punch, and once you get +1, it's like really hard to beat this guy unless you have another priority user that's faster, or if you have like a super strong Dark Resist, which in the lower tiers that Honchkrow's in, you don't have a lot of those. So it's pretty good at its job. Maybe in this matchup, I would have not thought about maybe not taking it, considering that there's like a Dock Spun that can be very defensive here, and also 2 Terra Captains that are Terra Fairyable.
For sure,
pretty decently bulky, but yeah, it could. I mean, obviously there's some potential for Honchkrow all the time. Like any Moxie user, there's always a chance for. So
definitely.
Let's also not count out Honchkrow's 105 base special attack. It does get Heatwave as a coverage move. Right, so
that's true. Yeah,
it's not bad. Yeah,
Moxie, the old school sort of, or I should say old school. God, Gen 5 was 12 years ago. The sort of old school, like underused Honchkrow, if you're ever actually going to use Honchkrow in Gen 5 UU, was a mix sweeper. Right, that was the first time I got Moxie with Sucker Punch. Before Sucker Punch got its damage nerfed. And also you had Heatwave for stuff like Bronzong and Shaman. And so I can see, I watched this game, I don't recall if Honchkrow ever clicks Heatwave, if it was even on the set. But hey, Sun Boosted Heatwave is like a thing in VGC, right?
That's true. True.
Yeah. That's actually a good shout out here. I would not have thought about that.
Yeah, if he's playing basically like the VGC like take on a Honchkrow, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
We'll find out, because I forgot what this did.
One more thing that may be not as important, but potentially a set that I don't know. I mean, I don't believe we saw it in this game, but maybe in the future, is Honchkrow does get Super Luck, which increases your crit by 1 stage.
Yo, hell yeah, we're playing Crit Crow.
Yeah.
I've seen people try to play like Razor Claw, Super Luck, like crit cheese with Sucker Punch and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, because this thing doesn't get like focus energy, right? Like.
Yeah, I don't believe it gets focus energy, but it's like you just play for coin flips, right? It's like people who play Sniper on like Inteleon, but no focus energy because it doesn't get focus energy. So that's something to consider. It's
I just looked at chat and I see I think Boba's actually in the chat. He said I was gonna do Sunny Day, but he was thrown off his game plan when Gouging Fire got drafted first pick.
Yeah,
understandable.
I mean, how it is.
Let's take a second here just to also spotlight Haku's team. I feel like this actually is like a pretty decent team, if not maybe potentially missing some coverage. At least, you know, I would have gone about it a little differently, but bring, some of his just good things like Great Tusk. I know Mew's like a favorite of his. It's like
Yeah.
Smeargle in quotes, kinda. Not really anymore, but it's sort of. Along with Raging Bolt, I assume just to click Thunderclap a bunch of times and hope it works.
Yeah.
I think kind of the whack pick is maybe the Altaria, given the numerous dragon types, I guess, that not a mob can present, but I believe this is also one of his Terra Captains, which is like kind of evens it out.
Yeah, it is the Terra Fairy, or potentially Terra Fairy, I should say, Altaria. So there's definitely a reason that it could show up here. It's also Terra Water.
Oh, Terra Water is
for
not
what
bad
it's worth,
actually
it's
here. It's quite good.
Also not bad in this matchup. Yeah.
It's really only
So it's
bad
got two
to
pretty good Terra types.
Sufjan.
Yeah. Yeah. Two pretty good Terra types into the matchup.
The crux of success with this version of Altaria, though, is making sure that Nada Mops, really, I think, just a superstar of any draft team, if you can get it, G Slowking, right? I don't know if we really talked about G Slowking on that team, but bulky poison type, hits really hard, has an incredible ability, and is kind of a one-stop shop to Altaria.
True. Yeah.
So Altaria probably does pretty good into the rest of this team. It gets stuff like Earthquake, which I guess hits G Slowking super effectively, but that thing is so bulky, it doesn't really. I don't know what the calc is. I'm not gonna try to figure it out right now, but it's the same coverage move that'll hit Torkoal for super effective, right? So,
Right.
Altaria's success is entirely hinged on the thing that just walls it forever and makes it a Terra Captainable Pokemon, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I don't know if there's a whole lot to be said about Rotom Wash. If you've been around long enough in any level of Pokemon, Rotom is pretty good when it's an appliance.
Yeah.
And
I played this one last season. Just very consistent. It's one of those really good, just defensive or offensive Pokemon. Very flexible.
yeah, the question is, what does Rotom Wash not do? And it's like your taxes, but it can wash your clothes.
Yeah,
It doesn't hit. It's not a physical attacker.
Oh yeah,
Although
I mean, I guess. with
Banded
its, like,
Rotom
base-
Wash sounds kind of incredible. Not gonna lie.
Banded Rotom Wash with its base like 50 physical attack. Hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Next season, watch this. And then lastly, there's the Dosh Bun, and I know Haku's a big fan of his Dosh Bun. Something about it being a dog made of bread or something like that. It's probably a reference.
It destroyed me last season. I played very poorly into it, and it was very strong.
I remember one-shotting it last season. So there really are two sides of the coin, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll just get into it. We're set at speed slow, so we can kind of look through the turns a little bit more closely. Leads our Mew
Okay.
to the Torkoal. This is not at all surprising because Torkoal wants to be here, and here comes the Leafeon, interestingly enough, and soaks the power of Meteor Beam off of Mew. That's kind of wild, actually. Goes with the Terra
I like-
Dark.
I like Meteor Beam. I'm a Meteor Beam enjoyer. Power of Meteor Beam, one of my favorite lead sets, definitely.
For sure. I think that this Terra Dark was crazy to immune the Psyshock and still got off a good, healthy chunk of damage on knockoff without an item. Here comes.
Yeah, really.
Why is this thing called Ohio?
I don't know.
I think I said this in one of our chats, but he lost in the team builder once he nicknamed this thing Ohio.
True. Well, he goes for the switch out. Actually, a double switch, Leafeon switching out, and at the same time, it's Great Tusk. Torkoal comes back in, eats that Dragon Pulse. Not very nicely, though, but Rocks gets set up here, which is pretty convenient here. The only spinner is Ohio, and it's not Boots, which is pretty useful. Soul King takes that Pulse, also not super great. And there's another switch to stack off, I guess, the Leafeon for a clean pivot, which is not a bad idea, actually.
Here's where we see the danger of playing Sun against an opponent who also has a photosynthesis Pokemon, right? Where they can just take advantage of your own weather, and it's very hard to get a good switch in against something like a Raging Bolt.
Absolutely. And here's a scale shot coming into the dash button switch, doing no damage.
Literally no damage. Yeah.
And there's a switch back out into Torkoal, which is really nice. As the Dashman goes for Yawn, actually. I really like that. That's really cool tech. Either forcing out a switch on, anything else, or if it falls asleep, that's pretty much a KO. Player F comes into Slowking doing pretty much no damage, as it reveals Rocky Helmet, which is pretty funny into, my opinion. Here's Bolt.
I'm
Taking a
Slowking,
Sludge
always a
Wave
pretty
like a
solid
champ.
choice. Yeah. Yeah, Assault Vest, Raging Bolt. Pretty good at taking hits from special attackers.
And there's the sack off on the Torkoal. Not one, I'm not sure if that was the best move, but I mean, I guess he doesn't have a lot else to trade out here, which is a little unfortunate. Scale shot into the Dashbun again. Very sad. Lawrence Slowking comes back out here.
Gets yawned, which is interesting.
I don't hate the yawn on the switch in. I think it's
like
actually
it.
quite smart. Goes for the protect here, which is a little interesting. I would have probably clicked yawn there, to be honest. Trying to fish for the second, the sleep on the switch in. And Hydro Sim kind of plinks into the protect as Sun ends, and Sun is gone now for the rest of the game. There's a switch out into the Rotom Wash, which I don't know about that, but it's also the Skibbity Wash.
Hippity Wash.
There's the pair onto Glow King. Not like it's gonna make a difference. This thing's already super slow, but I guess the chance to miss a turn is potentially big. There's a pain split, as there's the Paraturn.
Yeah, so we have a few pretty slow turns here. Rotom versus Glow King, not exactly the most eventful. I think important to note is it doesn't seem like there's slack off on this Slowking.
No, which is odd. He was just kind of clicking Sludge Wave. I'm curious what his set is. I don't know if we ever get it fully revealed to us by end of game.
Yeah. I was thinking that it would probably be best for Haku to have Volt Switched on the Glow King and got into Great Tusk to just start threatening KOs with Earthquake or Headlong. But I guess he's better than me because he takes this crazy Thunder Wave and gets the power on Walking Wake.
Yeah, that is a wild switch in.
Yeah,
and T-Wave click.
That's a crazy T-Wave click is what I was thinking. There's no reason for that to ever happen, but
I think here though, now they're kind of they're just attritioning themselves, and he actually loses HP on that pain split, which is pretty funny.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I think at this point now I would actually just straight up go for the Volt Switch, because you're never gonna win this back and forth because of Regenerator on the Slowking. So this is, to me, very pointless.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well here. You could go for a Volt Switch on pretty much any of these turns that Slowking is coming in.
Yeah, and see, now I don't know, it feels like he's just kind of fishing for something.
He's trying to get another Thunder Wave off on something else, maybe something else will come in?
Yeah, but
Eerie Spell is a funny tech move here to try to get the remaining PP off of Hydro.
Is Spite still in the game?
I believe
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I miss the move Grudge. I feel like Grudge is a pretty fun draft move. But yeah, a lot of
And
I think
okay, now there's the switch, and 8 turns kind of late, but there it is.
got the Volt Switch off. Good.
There's the Thunderclap actually, and it doesn't get the KO as Walking Wake is actually able to take down the Raging Bolt, which is, I think, a huge turning point. There's a spin on into the Wake, clearing away those hazards. Not like they were really stopping a whole lot. And here's the Honchkrow. It lives the Ice Spinner.
Yeah, so this is a very cool set. It's actually
what the fuck, comeuppance?
yeah, this is a defensive Honchkrow set with Comeuppance. And for those
That's
who are not aware,
crazy.
yeah, Comeuppance is it's basically the same as like counter or mirror coat, except it works on both physical and special moves, but only returns 1.5 times the damage instead of 2. Um, so
Yeah, I
it's
didn't.
also not negative priority, which is
Oh, it's new.
interesting-
It's actually neutral.
yeah, it's actually
Oh.
0 priority. Um,
That's kind of
Okay.
cool.
makes it really fascinating, yeah. But it's a neat tech choice on like a slower Pokemon like Honchkrow,
Yeah.
because yeah, defensive Honchkrow is like not something that I would have expected here.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's super cool, and he actually gets a second KO because he sucker punches out the Rotom.
Mhm.
Gets
Yeah, I feel like
sacked
that
off
Rotom was
here.
giving up a bit.
Oh yeah, a little bit at +1 from Moxie. It's not looking great. I probably would have actually gone into Dash Button, knowing that Honchkrow probably always has sucker. You could just bait out with a yawn turn or something.
I gotta say, I do love seeing random coverage moves on Mew. It's really what you gotta do.
Oh yeah.
Mew, of course, getting Draco Meteor through, I believe, an event.
I think so.
Is it a? It's not a. Draco Meteor is not a TM this generation, right?
No, I don't believe it is.
I don't believe it is.
But Mew.
Now this
Draco
is-
Meteor Mew is very funny.
Unfortunately, now it's kind of awkward because Haku was sitting at -2 and going down to -4.
Or
Kind of not doing anything. And here's a scale shot. This didn't Terra. Wait. This didn't Terra. If it Terra'd, I think it may have been able to live that. Oh, there's the chat. You fucked up, forgot to Terra.
Definitely, yeah, definitely forgot the Terra there. Very unfortunate loss. I think, I mean, yeah, not much really you can say about that one besides click the Terra button.
Yeah, I think just remember what your buttons do.
Yeah.
Not too much more. This
think-
was
I
a
mean, that-
pretty tight game, though.
Yeah.
It may have been a little bit faster, I think, had Haku gone for a pivot out in those Rotom stall turns, because I think we lost like 10 turns to
we
that.
kind of had like 10 turns of nothing there. I guess it was chipping down the walking wake, but like
I don't
think-
know. It's pretty marginal, though.
yeah, at the end of the day, like once you had the walking wake paralyzed, I think there were a few turns where Haku threw away Pokemon, and one of them is not hitting the Dragon Pulse against Walking Wake with Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
Raging Bolt is faster, obviously, now that Wake is paralyzed. And the Dragon Pulse is like a guaranteed KO, even from like 80%, much less 40.
For sure. I just looked at it, by the way. It was about 20 turns of nothing.
Yeah, so I mean,
So
we had that, and we also had losing the Rotom to the Sucker Punch for kind of no reason there. So definitely was a little bit thrown away, I think, even just besides not hitting the Terra at the end.
mhm.
Like, there were a few better plays that could have been made here, but I mean, you know, credit to Nadama for pulling it back and making it work in the end, even if it was a little bit of luck.
Yeah, I think I think it was actually still really cool for Nanama to at least spotlight his Honchkrow. This is such a cool build, and we
Yeah,
don't know what the
especially
other
the
two
Honchkrow.
moves are. What else does this
Yeah.
have? Because Comeuppance is not a move, I think, prior to this game that I've ever seen anyone click ever. I've been playing a long time. I've heard it. I've like never heard of this move. When I heard it, I was like, I thought someone was talking about Akshan from League of Legends. I was like, what? Comeuppance?
Yeah. For the record, Comeuppance is a physical move, and it's only besides on Honchkrow, it's only available on Hisuian Zoroark, which is a special attacker, Houndoom, which is usually a special attacker, and Mabostiff, which is not played very much. So
Oh, what the
Yeah.
hell? Okay.
the distribution of this move is very, very low.
For the purposes of this draft, Mabostov has not been taken by either league. So
Yes.
if that shows how sort of not terribly desirable that Pokemon is, even in its like what 4-point slot or something like that. No, not that low, but something along those lines.
I
Yeah,
think it's about there. Like 4. It's like 4 or 5. Which,
Mabostov
to be
is 4
fair,
points. It is 4 points.
I think Mabostiff is like a pretty decent 4-point Pokemon. This is kind of getting on a tangent here, but like, I think Stakeout is like pretty good, especially with Terra. But I mean, yeah, not like a Pokemon that a lot of people gravitate towards, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's for sure potential with it.
Yeah, but it's like it's one of those Pokemon. It's like it's new in the gen, so people are like not as familiar with it,
Mhm.
and it's like also like it's kind of an ugly Pokemon to be honest.
Hey man,
So,
whoever played Scarlet and Violet knows, you know, Mabostiff is a bit of a friend.
true.
You know,
For
there's,
sure.
I mean, like half the game is you trying to feed it sandwiches so it doesn't die or something.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, Comeuppance not a very widely distributed move, so it's cool that we got to see it on one of the few Pokemon that's on, and that it did work.
Oh, absolutely.
That one. Yeah.
I was so. I remember watching this in person, and I was so doubting Notamop's position. I was like, "There's no way he's able to pull this off." And then somehow it worked, and then the Honchkrow get 2 kills, and I was like, "How the, huh? What?
Yeah.
Okay."
I was fully expecting something like Scarf Bravebird there, but no, it was not. It was something much more sinister.
Yeah, I never would have
Something
expected
far more
that.
sinister.
I was personally thinking like banded choice or choice banded Moxie suckers to just start coming out.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Which would I think is equally crazy, but like this is like a step above. So really cool for Nautomop to show us some really unusual tech, off of this pretty interesting team. I feel like we actually didn't get to see a whole lot of his team because he kind of clicked. I think the moves he really needed to, like no more than 2 moves were ever revealed on anything, which is I think just kind of funny. But really good first game. Off to a great start for him this season with a tight victory 1-0. And I don't think he has too many things really vying for the MVP race at the moment, which is fine.
Gouging Fire is number 5 on the Unova Division Power Ranking.
Did I get 3 things or something?
It
Oh,
got
that's
2
two.
kills.
Well,
2 kills.
It's only there because it starts with a G. It's I think really it's Honchkrow. That's the one we want. This is the people's champion in my book right now.
Man.
It's Honchkrow. That's my boy.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's
Yeah, there's
go.
Honchkrow right there.
Yeah. Thanks, Alpha Order. All right, let's get into our second game here, and I think this is the game in my book is like probably the most important at this point in the season. But Corin, it's week 1. Shut up. It sets up a story arc, and we're here for the story arc.
This is definitely sending us on a story arc.
We're in for the lore. Right?
True. We're
lore people.
yeah. Now we're writing like the whole fucking book or something.
We're definitely in it
is-
for the
this is-
story on this one.
This is peak journalism. We're bringing this to you from the front lines of the greatest rival story Pokemon has ever seen, both in and out of the game.
Wow, that's high praise. That's crazy, bro.
So, should we break down the context of this before we start the game, or?
Yeah, I think it's important to establish the lore baseline, also so I can upload it to YouTube and so it's documented.
Sure.
So, Jeff or Big Honey or Kel's Fajita, because he's fucking username, or in this case, he is now Big Kieran. And Big Kieran is off on this quest to become the champion. If any of you have played the DLCs of Scarlet and Violet,
God
it's
help
pretty
you
much
if you
what it
have.
is. So Big Kieran has drafted his team with the express purpose of making it to the top because he wants to get out of the shadow of his sister or something. I think that's the game lore. But Jeff is actually taking it a step further. His... God, fuck, I have to click on it. His logo is Kieran. His name is Kieran. For a while, his Discord user was Kieran. And now, his team roughly was drafted as Kieran. And he's been quoting Kieran in the majority of the text channels in our number of interactions. So he's taking it far and above what I expected. He is now Kieran.
Oh, that reminds me. I have to change his profile picture too.
Oh yeah, do that later.
Champion Kieran.
So we're establishing the story arc because, much like in Scarlet and Violet, some people probably ended up at the DLCs after they beat the game, so they're the champion. And Cat Bomb was our first season's champion. So we have the previous champion fighting Kieran, sort of reflecting the DLC. So it's just very funny.
Yeah.
So this game is sort of setting up our lore, and we're about to see it unfold before our eyes. I think we can just kind of go quickly through the teams because we have like 6 more games to look at.
Yeah, for sure.
So Kieran's team, whatever. Yeah, Kieran's team is, I think, actually pretty decent. He's got Gliscor, Necrozma, Duraludon. I think it's actually kind of interesting here. He has one of my picks, Dunsparce, a King Gambit, and a Clefable. Really, like, kind of an aggressive but also really passive team. Actually, maybe more so passive, if anything. Playing pretty defensively with. These are all things that you can build really bulky, and also Necrozma, which I think can also be built pretty defensively.
Defenses are pretty bulky, yeah.
Yeah, I think also paired with Prism Armor, you can get away with living quite a few hits.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is like a really defensive team versus Cat Bomb playing effectively what I thought at first glance was just VGC Psy Spam. Because I saw Indeedee and I saw Armarouge and I got mad. So
that's single Psy Spam too, for the record. This if you took away the Hatterene and the Iron Valiant, this would be passable as like RU Psy Spam right now.
This motherfucker just playing Psy Spam. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a strong archetype. It's a strong archetype in draft too, where not everybody has like a really good, reliable dark type.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, the dark type on Kieran's team is Gambit, which Armarouge also answers conveniently. So
for sure. Yeah,
I mean, it's a strong team. It's very straightforward. But I mean, that seems to be Cat Bomb's style, as we saw last season. Like, he just likes to pick things that he can throw out and hit hard with. So it's very on brand for him as a player.
Pretty much. So it'll be. I remember watching this game. It was we mentioned it was pretty tight all the way down to the end there. So let's get into it. We got the leads in Indeedee. Not really surprising with Necrozma. That's a little surprising. Indeedee going straight away for the Terra Dark, hitting with the Dazzling Gleam. Probably expecting some kind of second move. Is Meteor Beam. I forgot. Oh. It lived, fuck. And there's the Encore. And I remember I commented on this while we were watching the game live. This is extremely awkward because now he's locked in for effectively 4 turns. Because of how Meteor Beam interacts. And here's the switch out. Poltergeist comes in here as Dunsparce is swapped in. There's the Shell Smash. Stored Power does not get the KO on my funny little snake as the glare comes off, getting the Paralyze. Cutting that speed stat. And there he goes switching, I think because he's afraid of Paraflinch. As the Ditto actually copies Dunsparce. And here comes Clefable Carmine. Okay. And there's the cheeky Encore on the glare turn. Wowzers. Actually, even in the chat, you can see he's still quoting Kieran. There's the Roost turn for the Dunsparce, as Psyshock actually doesn't do a whole lot of damage there. There's a Nuzzle, which I think is actually really cool, getting the Paralyze off onto my funny snake. And Terra Ghost, Psyshock deals a decent chunk. And there's the the crit hex dealt 68%. And there's the Dunsparce copying, or the Ditto copying Dunsparce. I may have actually stayed in there because what is there to do? But here's the Gambit taking that hex off. As Hatterene comes back in, taking the Wish. As Sucker actually fails, because what does this go for? Oh, because it switched in Hello. And there's the Iron Head rolling a crit, getting that one shot. Really nice. And here, I remember thinking, Kieran actually has a chance here. And it lives in Armor Cannon, which is actually insane.
I remember we both lost our minds when that happened.
Yeah, I was.
Both
Oh
in
my
the chat
god.
of the game and out of it.
I was screaming in the call. And there's the. Now we're playing the interesting game of Endure, Sucker, and I think this has Destiny Bond, if I'm not mistaken. There it is.
This is the debunked one.
And he goes for the switcher into Clefable. I think he may have been better off staying in. Just to maybe fish out the Sucker Punch. His Armor Cannon gets actually encored by the Clefable. Not the worst. But he's not afraid, I think, to keep clicking it, because there's almost no reason not to. He goes for the switcher into Duraludon to take an Armor Cannon? Okay. To be honest, this feels like a waste of the Encore turns. Does Duraludon actually get the KO here? Yeah, okay. It actually clicks a move, I forgot.
Yeah, I think I would have attacked with the Clefable there, just to finish it off.
Yeah, because you know you can take a
Hard to
hit and then
attack.
you can go for the kill.
Yeah, and I think keeping the Duraludon healthier is pretty important here.
Mm-hmm. I think Duraludon actually matches up pretty well into the Poltergeist.
Yeah, just because it can come in on the Poltergeist to take a hit.
Yeah, for sure. And then Necrozma just goes down for, I think, pretty close to free. There's the Protect from Gliscor's Shadow Ball is just coming out for the Poltergeist. I remember we talked about this Gliscor. I think this is actually physical defensive Gliscor, and that's why it gets one-tapped here, really unfortunately. Gambit comes in here. Sucker fails. I think this is going for a second shell? Or Strength Sap. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and at this point, this is like a really hard game to play because all of Kieran's Pokemon are like fairly low HP, and it's not really much that.
I think actually what he could have done. Something. This is a hard read, but on the turn where after the Strength Sap, he could have potentially fished for the Kowtow Cleave KO. If he predicts the second Shell Smash, but that's such a hard read to make.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this thing goes for a tear through the remainder of the team at this point. It's +4. Sucker brings it down to Sash, but it kind of doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. Because this knows it can just either it can get the KO with the Shadow Ball.
And also just Strength Sap up until it's not killable anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, we were talking to Jeff about this game the day of, after he played in. I think he could have stayed in a little bit more with a couple of his picks. I think switching out as often as he did kind of spelled doom for him. Because actually Capcom did point out as well while we're talking about it, over switching was losing him a lot of pacing, a lot of tempo, because I think actually in that mid game there was a lot of pressure, exerted by this Gambit with still the healthy Necrozma and Duraludon in the back, serving as kind of that core of like steel types. It's pretty threatening, and I think just not seeing the opportunity to potentially just stay in and click a move really hurt. But in a couple of cases, I think the read was really difficult to make.
Yeah, there were like a few difficult turns there for sure, and also like just adding on to the point of over switching, also like knowing when to sacrifice. Like there were a lot of Pokemon at the end that are just low HP and not really that useful. So maybe sacrificing one of those to get a cleaner switch in for like, let's say, Necrozma or the Duraludon.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe like Dunsparce could have been sacked a little bit earlier or something like that. Use that already low HP thing that you already can know in your head, like, okay, this is probably not going to do a lot in the end game because it's at 3. You can kind of let it go. But still, I think this is like decently well played. Definitely I think it was a lot closer this time around than it was last season for Jeff, which is great. It just means now he's on the story arc because he lost and now he's unhinged. So now he's on the war path. So we're updating him, and he also has requested we update his profile to be, like Championship Kieran from the
angry
second
Kieran
DLC.
now.
Yeah, he's mad. So
I would send the file, and the file is just titled Angry Kieran.
hell
So,
yeah.
he's Angry Kieran.
So I'm expecting good things from him the rest of the season, and if not, at least it was funny.
Indeed.
But we shall, I expect to see more, either funny memes or maybe some wins. I want to see. I really hope that he makes it into playoffs. The dream was if he wins this week, it sets him up to just crush his division. And alternatively, if he loses this week, it still sets him up to crush his division because now he's angry Kieran and has to win his way all the way back up to playoffs to rematch his foe. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping he actually does that because I want to see him make it all the way back up there. I think that would be great. Great
That
to
is
see.
going to be a sight to see for sure.
Yeah, I'm ready to see it for sure.
So we'll wait to see. I didn't look at chat, but Siege commented that the bun was kind of walling from the previous game, which is true. And then Cambotic said the crit hex was pretty pog. I agree. Dunsparce with a weird offensive set like para and an offensive like hex is really neat. And to me is testament that Funny Snake can kind of do whatever it wants. In the best way.
Yeah,
Turns out a
if you
benefit
ask
of normal
me,
type.
yeah, if you ask me, Dunsparce is kind of like a budget Mew in the sense that as a team builder, you really can make it do kind of whatever you need it to do, right? It's just got so many options that are pretty solid, and it's got good offensive and defensive stats. Where it's not pigeonholed and just being a wall or
Absolutely.
just being an attacker.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So definitely a super fun mon to watch, and see what the players bring every week because again there's that flexibility.
Yeah, I've been telling people Dunsparce is I think maybe one of the highest value 3-pointers in the draft pool and potentially in the game just because of its unbridled utility. It can do anything in the best ways, and and I described it this in one way, which I don't super care if people disagree, but it's sort of to me like the 3-point cousin of Dragapult, because it can do whatever it wants, and it does most of them pretty well at worst, and at best it excels.
Yeah, it's kind of a it's gonna be it's weird for me to say this but it's almost a little bit better if you can't get Dragapult because again you can play it defensively. Dragapult is obviously very strong and very flexible, but it's still very frail. So you can't rely on it to be a tank. You have to purposely draft a bulkier Pokemon to be your defensive backbone.
Right.
But with Dunsparce and the Dunsparce, you can really make this guy do anything that you need your draft to do, or any fill any hole in your draft.
Absolutely. Turns out it's a really nice benefit to have a base like 400 or 100 something HP stat, so you can really just get away with whatever you want whenever you want, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's keep trucking along here. Next game we got is Sriracha 37 versus Milky Boba. And I know Boba was in the chat actually a little bit earlier. I hope he's still here. This will be a fun one. Both are pretty new to our draft league format. And I know both players have actually been putting a lot of work and a lot of effort to kind of prepare. Sriracha, which in this case is Mr. Steel Your Mans, I used to work with him when I started my current job, and I know he's pretty competitive, and I think some of the other people I work with can also vouch. But it's been, to me, it's been really cool kind of watching him get really into the prep work and like really analyzing what he wants to do and how he wants to play out the season. So I'm really excited for this game. And I know Boba as well is like coming into this. He's got a decent bit of knowledge here, from what I understand. So seeing him kind of flex those muscles is like gonna be really fun. And already you can kind of tell with the mons that they've brought, there is some familiarity from both players. And I think with Boba, this feels very like Gen 5, Gen 6, except the belly bolt. Like, you have Landers or Therian, interestingly enough. You have Tyranitar, Gastrodon, Volcarona, and Caesar. Like, I would have... This doesn't read to me like a current gen team, and yet here we are.
This is very old gen, but it's still like very strong.
If you squint your eyes, like real hard, the Bellabolt turns into Reuniclus, and we're playing modern day Gen 5 OU.
True. But still a super cool team, I think. Definitely is playing kind of hard sand here, which is also really fun. I know people were trying sand as a weather last season, to mixed success. So I'm kind of excited to see how this one will go. And looking at Sriracha's team, this one was fun because I remember helping him draft this team, mostly because he was on a flight while we started the draft. But he requested things like Meowscarada, Pecharunt. I think he picked up Empoleon, and I don't know how, but he got Darkrai like really late. It was like unusually late, I think. I'm gonna check.
Yeah, he picked it up on the 9th round actually.
Yeah, which is insane because I remember
that's wild.
First pick he was like, I want Meowscarada, and I'm like, that's a great first pick. And then somehow Darkrai fell to him, and like toward the very end, I'm like, sure, okay, I guess you have Darkrai now. And you know he's paired it with, I think this is probably Magic Bounce Espeon, which I don't remember anyone using last season, so it's kind of cool to see it now. Flygon and Empoleon I know we did see last season, which is really cool to see on this team, and I think they kind of round things out really nicely here. And he's brought Pecharunt, and I love Pecharunt. This was maybe my favorite thing I used last season. So it was so good that we nerfed it to 15 points. One of the few adjustments we made. But I think rightfully it is still really good at 15. This thing is so hard to deal with, and I love him so much. Look at that funny little guy in a kind of a fruit.
It's got an incredible defensive typing. Its move pool is nuts, and I think the crowning jewel on Pecharunt, if you're really not familiar, is that Malignant Chain ability. Right? Isn't that the move? No, that's not its ability. Poison Puppeteer is that ability, right? Malignant Chain is the thing that the Loyal 3 get.
No, Malignant Chain's the move.
Is it a move? Fuck.
It's like a base. It's the signature move. Base 100 power or something.
Signature move.
50%
so Poison
chance
Puppeteer. Poison Puppeteer is crazy, right? If you like passive damage, play Pecharunt. Play Pecharunt in Sand. Thought for next draft.
Actually, though, if you want one of the only ways to confuse an enemy, play Pecharunt.
There you go. Because Smogon Clazo's banned explicit confusion moves, which I think is disappointing. But it is what it is.
We are not unbanning Swagger, and you cannot make me.
Oh, I'm not saying Swagger. I just mean like Confuse Ray.
Yeah, nah. stay locked up.
I can stay banned. Okay. All right, fair.
All right, let's watch this. Let's watch this game.
Let's take a look.
Alley-oop. There's the leadoff here. It is the Espeon staring down a Scizor. Espeon actually going for the Yawn, which is kind of cool, as actually the Caesar just goes for a Swords. Really incentivizing a switch out here as they both switch, and Empoleon now staring down a Tyranitar, And actually, the Empoleon is such a nice switch here, actually. Forces another switch straight into Gastrodon. As Empoleon clicks Swords? I guess?
That's Napoleon, guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And this
We're
is
really
this
playing
is an
old Jets
Empoleon.
here.
This is an Empoleon, by the way, that lost Defiant as its hidden ability.
Yeah,
and
that was competitive.
gained competitive, which is a better hidden ability for it. And I think we were talking about this when the game was actually going. One generation too late. Meow
Yeah.
in triple axling.
Taking
Lando
the clean
T.
KO. Not 100% sure
No
what
Lando
that
T this
switching
game.
was for, but even at -1, you're still 4 times weak and you'll die. Volcarona comes in
yes.
here, gets the Fire Dance off onto the Espeon, actually gets a +1. I'm surprised this didn't go for a Quiver. As, okay, Power Gem gets the Yoko. Power Gem is a crazy
Great tech choice.
Tech choice, yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Transfer comes back out, hits D-Dance. Oh, truly,
So we're not playing Gen
filled.
5. We're not playing Gen 5, we're playing Gen 3. That's how old DD
We're real old Jets here.
We're old Gen gaming. Great move on physical Empoleon, knockoff. I mean, you would want to run it on defensive Empoleon. There's probably room for it on a special attacking variant too.
Probably, it's just like a support
Huge
move.
knockoff target for Gastro as Flygon dodges the incoming. Earth Power gets rocks up, dies to Ice Beam.
A nice little Ice Beam here.
And here's the
One
Flower
quad
Trick.
weak ice Pokemon for another one.
And speaking of quad, there's the auto-critting Flower Trick into Gastro. There it goes. Never to be seen again. And I remember watching this game live and thinking, okay, I don't know how Bulba's going to tear this one back because being down 3-5 is not a good situation. There's a moth at my window.
And there was a moth in this game. That's great.
There's a bug in this game, yeah.
There's
2 bugs in this game, actually.
Aaron Zhang's Puke Green.
Oh yeah, his
Scizor coming out, getting the Bullet Punch KO on Darkrai and Dual Wing Beat.
That's a bit interesting.
Empoleon.
I don't know what this set is, but so far we know SD, Bullet Punch, Dual Wing Beat. I desperately was hoping the last move would be like some kind of bug move, because I think that's really great into Meowscarada and Espeon. But there is a Dual Wing Beat, one of them crits, as Empoleon just gets up with Swords.
Really big crit, actually. Because it
Yeah,
means that
it makes this
Empoleon
KO.
can't die to the second one, yeah.
And
Can
there
we talk
it goes.
about this Empoleon, based off of all the moves that was revealed, in fact, does not have stab. This was a stabless Empoleon.
There's no water, no steel move. And there's a Bullet Punch KO actually for the Scizor onto that Espeon. Here comes the Petrant, my little fella. Takes that Bullet Punch with its crispy base 160 Fizz defense as it goes for a nasty plot with a little bit of healing off that Black Sludge. Living that second Bullet Punch in a little bit better than last time. Hex comes out at +2, it doesn't KO, and is that a Citrus Berry?
Citrus Berry.
What a good tech.
Fascinating. There's the
there are
other
a couple
Bullet Punch to pick up the kill, and here's the Meow. And there's the punch. Absolutely
Incredible.
wild.
Last few turns of the game really perfectly showcase the power of priority, especially stab priority, of course. Scizor is the poster child for having just some of the strongest priority options in the game. Steel hits a lot of Pokemon neutrally. It hits a lot of things super effectively. It's only gotten more valuable as, fairies have long since settled into the meta, but a really good option to a lot of fairy teams. Let's talk about that Citrus Berry. That's wild.
I was not prepared for it. I was thinking this may have some kind of other item. I was not expecting a Citrus Berry. I don't think it mattered, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a scenario where that mattered. I guess it's pretty good at avoiding a bit of extra chip if it's not Sword Stance Empoleon, if it's more defensive set on that, and maybe a bit of chip from Espeon. But yeah, definitely an interesting item choice. I guess it's there's gotta have been like some calc for it.
Yeah, I
That
think
was good. But
I think it's kind of funny that it like Boba is seeing had like a vision that I didn't see. But this Scizor like went on a fucking tear. This thing
Yeah.
absolutely popped off. Really,
5 KOs with a Scizor.
oh my god, it's so good. Scizor out here really proving that it is not a fraud even in Gen 9. This thing is
Yeah.
still really, really good.
Yeah.
I like the idea of berries used on offensive mons that don't necessarily need an explicit damage boosting item or maybe have some kind of reliable recovery move. Because right, the concept of a healing berry is you're just extending your HP. Right? Like leftovers is a little different because it heals a certain percentage of your HP over time. Right? Whereas a berry is a one use kind of like big slug of HP. Right. So
Yeah,
I actually
they're-
wonder if in this case the healing nature based pinch berry would be better. But what am I saying? This Scizor, like you said, Corn went on an absolute murder spree. This thing is crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I am curious to look at some calcs eventually of like, would an Algoth berry or something been a little bit better, healing a little bit more HP, because it was brought, being a steel type, steel bug, Scizor's really biggest enemy is just the fire typing, but other than that, it can like take neutral hits for a century. So I'm curious to wonder, like, maybe an Algoth berry or something like that would have been a little bit better, going for 33%. Maybe have been a little bit nicer. But who knows? For better or worse, it didn't matter this game. So I think it's fine. But yeah, I think there may be a better argument for the bigger burst pinch berries as opposed to a citrus. That's fine. This game, I thought this game was like super Jover because I was like, okay, Tyranitar does not fare very well into this team. Belly Bolt has a chance, but also like it doesn't look super great until like Yaskarada and like maybe kind of Petrarunt, but I guess Scizor kind of got off that big old damage. Thank you, Technician, boosting bullet punches. God, we still love you.
Scizor is still a good Pokemon, as it turns out.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thanks for the feedback. It'll be a different item week 2. Hell yeah. You could try choice banding. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, you could. I'm a
Banded,
big fan
bullet punch.
of Iron Plate.
Oh, that's not bad actually either.
Iron Plate to bluff items is kind of fun.
Yeah, because they'll
You know,
see that
muscle
extra
band.
damage. Yeah, Expert Belt I think is another one that could work.
Expert belts are also really
I'm
fun.
an expert belt advocate myself.
Expert
What was
belt
the-
advocate.
What was the other one? Was it Black Belt? I think it boosts your physical like attacks. or
Black
something?
belt
or no?
boosts
Black
fighting
is
type
fighting.
damage. Muscle band boosts physical attack damage, allowing you to change moves. It's not as much of a boost as choice band. I don't actually know how. I don't know if the damage is really like off of muscle band is really that much, but it's an option. It's still in the game. Let's see.
I think that would be
There's
something to
iron
just
plate,
run
metal
calcs
coat.
on. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious if, like, maybe there are other items that could also work as good boosting options, but maybe not just for boosting Steel-type moves, maybe a little bit more applicable to Scizor's other moves, because, it does get access to other...
Life Orb.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't always like to recommend Life Orb just because sometimes you don't want that chip. And I think if Scizor had Life Orb, it would have chipped itself down way lower and
Right.
potentially would have died. Which then flips this game on its head. So, there's math to be done. If there's definitely a time and a place. So, I'm gonna let Boba figure that out. That's not my job.
Yeah. In
That's
this case,
yours.
though, I think Citrus Berry was really cool, really fun option for sure.
Definitely. Not what I would have expected, and potentially could have mattered if something didn't die. There was something to eat a bullet punch and not get one shot, but That's okay. We take that W. Take that W in stride.
Yeah. This is definitely like a hard end game to play out against the Scizor. I'm not sure. I think if the Meowscarada was positioned a little bit better at the end, um, I know from asking after the fact that this Meowscarada was choice banded. Um, so it's like very difficult to play the priority war against Scizor when you're choice banded, because if it's the last Pokemon and you're locked into Sucker Punch, well, you can kind of get stalled out by Dragon Dance Tyranitar.
Yeah, suddenly it's really awkward.
But yeah, with a bit better positioning, this could have definitely gone the other way, where Meowscarada comes in, Sucker Punch KOs the Scizor, then switches back out, and then comes in at the end just to hit Choice Band Flower Trick a few times against Tyranitar and Belly Bolt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is also like a pretty close game despite being a 3-0.
Yeah, this one...
It definitely could have gone the other way pretty easily.
This one was for sure really volatile, I think. But, you know, credit where credit is due. I think Wilba just played that, like... I think looked bad early with a couple of big mistakes. I think losing Landorus for no reason was pretty bad.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
you know, he positioned better into that late game and took it all the way home with Scizor. I just want to understand where the fuck was the Quiver Dance on Volcarona, but that's just me. And I don't want an answer right now, so let's just go to the next game. Hey, it's you.
Oh boy.
Admin.
Oh, it's me. Okay.
Mr. Ventus.
Yeah, this is a. I mean, I was looking forward to this matchup. I didn't get to play against Nook in the last season, so I played against his brother in the last season actually, but I didn't get to play against him. So
True.
I was pretty excited. I was a little bit nervous about. I mean, he's got Iron Hands, Dondozo. I mean, this whole team right here is basically everything that I was afraid of, right? It's just so many high power guys, and Dondozo is one of those Pokemon where it's like, if you're not ready for it, it's just gonna wall your whole team, and you can't ever kill it. So I was definitely a bit nervous about this game. You don't have to explain the context of my draft to the viewers on this stream, but basically I drafted a bunch of Pokemon that I like and I wanted to play. Also, it's for a meme, but you know, yeah, definitely. I was definitely scared of facing down like a group of 6 powerhouse threats like this. So
yeah, this is. I think the average power of Nook's team is like 16 or something. It's really threatening.
Yeah, I think the average cost of this team is like definitely like about 15ish. I think Dondozo's the lowest at 11, but
Also, he has like 2 17+ mons. I think 3 is
two 17+ pointers and 4 15+ pointers, right?
Yeah, this team is really spooky, but you know, I think there's stuff to talk about. You know, I think Latios, I think looks pretty good into everything except that Dragapult. That Dragapult kind of does everything but better.
Yeah. So, actually, my biggest fear here is going into this is the Weavile, actually, because this guy, like, even Scarf Weavile just KOs Dragapult effortlessly with stab knockoff. It's like not even close.
And if it's Scarf, it could actually get the KO as well with just like a triple axle or something.
Right, and it's just like very strong into. I mean, just in general, like having a strong knockoff threat, a really fast threat to deal with Dragapult and Ogerpon is like really scary. Obviously, Latios also very scary in its own right. The rest of my team, besides Dragapult, is not actually faster than Latios. I mean, I speed tie with Ogerpon, but that's about it. So, if Latios gets positioned properly, yeah, that can do a lot of work into my team as well. But yeah, definitely Weavile is like a big threat always. Between priority, Ice Shard, and just being a strong knockoff user in general. I think always something that you have to prepare for.
For sure, yeah. You know, and even with the speed tying to Latios, coincidentally also speed tying is that Iron Moth, which is an easy switch in.
Yeah, definitely.
To soak like a play rough or something like that.
Even the grass type attack, like Iron Moth coming in on the Ivy Cudgel, like against Mendoza.
Yeah, comes
Really
in, takes
devastating.
no damage, and you are
Yeah.
now terrified for your life, especially if it gets like a booster speed or something.
Right, right. Even just taking the 50-50, like if I lose the 50-50 on the speed tie, it could still just be over for me, right?
For
Like that's
sure.
always something I was thinking about as well.
Yeah, I think also Iron Moth kind of looks pretty good even into the Dragapult. Like, I don't think Dragapult has a lot of great options to threaten it out.
Yeah, I mean Dragapult does get access to Surf and Hydro Pump,
That's
um,
true, but
but
it's
again,
pretty
booster
uncommon.
speed,
And yeah, if it's
yeah,
faster than you, it doesn't matter.
booster speed Iron Moth will still kind of ruin my day if it's like Dazzling Gleam, Fiery Dance, that's that.
Yeah, if it rolls like one boost, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, so.
Um,
Yeah, really, really scary team is the point here. It's just like not much else to add on to that. It's just like there was a lot of things that I had to prepare for. I think I did the best I could given my draft, but yeah.
well, let's
definitely-
find out. Let's see if your preparation was worth it.
I'll say I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this draft of Nook's draft in the rest of the season because the power level's definitely there.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've seen his draft. It is he's got a lot of really cool things and things that even I would like to use and things actually I drafted previously. But I've said this to other people, but just because you give someone like, that really nice car, it doesn't mean that they know how to drive it. But
Yeah, true.
hopefully he can. These streams will act as driving lessons for him. So let's get into this game here. Hold on, sorry, just noticed my desk is sticky, probably because of the drink I had. Well, let's get into this. Got the leads here of Iron Treads into Probopass. Showing booster speed actually on the treads. Rocks comes out. Terra Ghost I think is really interesting as the body press comes out here. There's the knock. Does a pretty healthy amount of damage, but this thing just goes to what the fuck? Okay. I thought you were gonna go for a kill. There's an Earthquake.
Yeah.
Not doing a lot of damage, but Probopass is also really fat, and turns out when you're not weak to Earthquake, you're kind of okay.
Yeah, I prioritize going for the rocks there because a lot of my calcs to KO were based on having rocks up. It's really important for me to get rid of the spinner and also have my rocks set up at the same time. So I had to take the opportunity while I had it. I knew I wasn't going to really get a good chance against anything else on this team set up.
I think something I would have considered in Nook's position is the idea of maybe splitting my hazard setter from my hazard clearer. Because
yeah, for sure,
it's a little awkward, especially in the case of like being fully reliant on just Iron Treads to set up and control your hazards. Kind of can put you in really awkward positions. Also, that Draco Meteor missing just feels really bad. I don't think it would have KO'd. But...
yeah, that was a pretty lucky Draco. Yeah, it doesn't KO. I'm very specially defensive, but or I'm very bulky on this one. But yeah,
still, like,
definitely unfortunate miss.
And there's the switch into Paul going for the double switch. Latios kind of just stays in here, clicks another Meteor, bringing itself to -4, which is not great. But here's the Pissfish staring down the Scalade.
Pissfish.
I mean, look at it. It's gross.
I mean, it is.
It is
That's
the
what it
Pissfish.
is.
Knockoff coming out of here and actually
Huge.
getting rid of the Dundozo's leftovers is a massive swing. There's
So
a
no more
wish.
passive healing for the Dundozo.
And there's the double Earthquake to just pick up the KO on the Vaporeon, which at the very least is really useful. There's a switch into Iron Hands here as Ogerpon comes out. Ogerpon actually going for hell yeah, motherfucker, focus energy.
Yeah, so this is the Focus Energy set. I mean, I just need the crit boost to 2-hit KO this Dundozo of its maximum physical defense. There's just no other way I'm going to get through it.
Ice Punch coming out there doing next to no damage is really, it does a good amount, but I was hoping for the KO. There's the crit, there's the KO on the
Yep.
Dozo, exactly what you're hoping for, which is great.
Yeah.
Here's the Weavile, and now we're flipping a coin. Swords!
So he goes for the greedy sword stance here and gives me a really nice U-turn.
Yeah,
So I
takes
know that if I crit,
like
if I crit the
80.
U-turn, he dies, and even if I don't, I can do this.
Yep, there's the vacuum wave off of Gallade.
Yep.
Gallade, I think, not the best special attacker, but also Weavile 4 times weak and made of wet tissue paper, kind of just dies.
Yeah.
Latios here going for the Draco Meteor. Instead of like potentially a psychic move, I think is a little awkward, but
I mean, psychic move is also neutral, so Draco is like a bit stronger
I
as
suppose.
a neutral hit.
But there's the
But-
KO off that crit knockoff, actually dropping the scarf.
Yeah.
As Sacred Sword just finishes off that Iron Hands, and there's the GG. I'm trying to remember where the Iron Moth died, because I was wiping my table.
Moth was
died to an
killed.
earthquake.
Yeah, I was
by,
gifted the
Tauros
Iron
Kitsune.
Moth on the Switch end.
Because it came into Tauros?
An earthquake that
Yeah.
was aimed at
Earthquake was aimed at the Iron Hands.
at hands. Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of swapped in the Iron Moth there.
I think
Probably
potentially that was
expecting,
not...
Probably expecting a fire type move, maybe.
yeah, I
maybe
would
just
guess
expecting,
something like that.
the Flare Blitz, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, I have the Earthquake on this Tauros, just
Mhm.
ready to intercept that. So
I think Nook's...
I was gifted that a little bit.
I think Nook's biggest weakness is not scouting like what Pokemon can do what.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
you know, being in relatively new overall to competitive Pokemon, which I'm no longer going to take it as an excuse because he played last season, you bastard. You know, I think he's actually hinted to me before. He's like, yeah, I just don't know what everything does. And in fairness, I kind of get it. You know, in Pokemon especially, there's hundreds of Pokemon to choose from. Like well over like 500 or 600 at this point in that you can currently pick in Gen 6. And you know, it's really hard to narrow down what a thing could do. But you know, that's why we also have a lot of resources, like even just Smogon, at the very least can give you kind of inklings of like, oh, this could do that.
Yeah, at the very least, you can look up the moves that are available to Pokemon and like see, oh, is it possible for you to have a coverage move of this type, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's possible that like this guy gets a ground type move, or this
Yeah,
guy gets.
and I was about to say, like, you know, there might be a lot of Pokemon, but in a draft format, you just have like 10 to 12, and your opponent has 10 to 12. So really, you're only looking at 12. You know, potentially, 12 Pokemon at most. Your opponent picks 6.
Right.
You know, you kind of narrow it down a little bit, a lot of it. So I think it's actually a lot easier to potentially try to analyze your opponent's team to see what kind of off-the-wall coverage moves they get. In some cases, I think it is reasonable to not fully cover for everything, because certain Pokemon get access to everything from the sun and back.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't prepare for literally every single option, but I think considering a couple big ones like Earthquake on a few things is a relatively easy thing to kind of prepare for. So that's my big thing, I think, for Nook, is just maybe do a little bit more of that, like looking beforehand of what your opponent can do, besides just kind of staring at the stab moves, because I think that's maybe why he went for that switch.
Yeah, I think that was definitely what the case was there.
Also, I feel like he maybe forgot Iron Moth doesn't fly. That could also be a thing,
That may also be a possibility, yeah.
because it is a fire poison mon, but it has wings. So I've heard this from other people before too, where they're like, "Oh, I thought it was a flying type," and I'm like, "No, just because it has wings doesn't mean it flies." As much as I wish
Yeah.
that logic would apply, not everything, it doesn't work, unfortunately. But it's still only week 1. There's lots of potential. 7 more weeks of the base season, and if he makes it, he can make it to playoffs. I think he had a decent shot at it last season, and I think he can likewise have a shot at it this season.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, not actually a bad game though. Most things are pretty damaged, and Ventus, you even ended with a couple things like kind of in the yellow, if not in the red, which is like
Yeah, I
okay,
think
it's
I
like
had a few
close.
Pokemon
It's pretty
that were
close.
pretty low.
But we shall see.
I think if I wasn't just given the Iron Moth, I would have had a much harder game.
Yeah,
Because
for
that
sure.
Pokemon is like very scary to most of this team.
Oh yeah, Iron Moth.
It's got really
sitting
good
in the
coverage
back.
against basically everything that I have. Yeah.
Iron Moth in the back really bowls over the back half of this team. Like, it crushes Ogerpon. It actually, I think, is a good matchup into Gallade. And like, unless your Dragapult has like a really unusual like support, like a tech move like Surf, it's like kind of awkward to deal with if like this Pult's not prepared for it.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, like if it's Dazzling Gleam, like the hardest thing for it to beat is the Tauros. But he's got like a bunch of other good tools against Tauros. If he leverages those a bit better,
Yeah.
take out the Tauros. The last 3 Pokemon that I have alive here are kind of just food for this Iron Moth.
Pretty much. I think even like if he goes for like a D-Gleam or something into like the Tauros does not enjoy it. At the very least, if it doesn't die, it's gonna get chipped down for quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So he can exert a lot of pressure, and if he had the clean switch, Iron Moth coming into a Tauros, or like Tauros was coming into the Iron Moth, I think this would have been very different. Like Tauros probably just goes down for no reason if it was like kind of the flip side. But alas, we didn't have that. But it's okay. Look, you have more time. I trust you. Don't fuck it up. Looking at chat, Evil Bard says, if it floats, my brain assumes it's immune to ground. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how that works anymore, because where's the flying type? Where's the levitate? Is also a moth, so you would think it flies. I think a moth flew into my window a bit ago. That was the bug I heard at the last game.
Iron Moth flew into an earthquake. It was great.
Yeah, true. This thing just crashed into the ground and died.
Nice.
As most moths actually do, I think, in real life. If they land on the ground for too long, they're probably gonna die. But anyway, that was a game, and we only got a couple more left, and that's good. I really want to play Elden Ring tonight, so let's get these going. Hey man, good. This is a good fucking game.
For sure.
So let us get into the shit. Who's next? I think we have Hashiari versus Fennec Fox. Another game of a couple of new players to the league.
And 2 more new players, which is great.
Always love that. Those are always. So far, the new player games have been really fun to watch, and I've been having a great time with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
this is a treat for me because I actually don't think I've seen this one.
oh, this one's a
at
fun
all.
one because by I don't know if it's coincidence, but by the stars aligning the way they did, both of these players were helped by myself and Ventus, to varying degrees. I think Ventus was helping Fennec, in this case, and shown as Bengal. Fox, and I was helping Hachiari. I don't know about you, but when I was helping Hachiari, it was really interesting because her team has got like a lot of like really good threats, and a couple things that I thought could get positioned really well and could just take over the game. Looking at potentially like offensive Garchomp, I think is still like that's kind of my preference. I just really like offensive Garchomp. But also having like Iron Bundle.
So good.
Iron Bundle, like in my book, like really threatened out a lot of Fennec's draft, especially things like the Cinderace, and it doesn't super care about Ninetales either, which are a couple of like the big ones. And like I was like, I don't know, Breloom's cool. Breloom's cool. Let's pick Breloom in. And another one I think that actually, in my book, was gonna do really well was Tinkaton. I think Tinkaton is great. Last season, I think Jace of Spades kind of brought it to the table, and it did pretty well, I would say. It kind of showed off its wealth of utility options. And also the ability to click a base 160 power steel type stab move and just kind of go whack and kill something for no
Bonk.
reason.
Yep.
Yeah, Tinkaton is one of those very consistent Pokemon at the points cost that it's at. It's not always gonna
Absolutely.
like hard carry you, but you can always rely on it to be like a decent bulky mon and also do some pretty good damage, like you said with the Gigaton Hammer.
Absolutely. And like also knockoff will do decent damage. Like it doesn't have much of an attack stat to speak of. Like it's like base like 70 or some shit. But
Yeah.
knockoff still hurts. It gets the job done. As for the rest of this team, I think Corviknight was just looking pretty good. I figure it was like another good anchor. And also like it was the answer to the Reggies because Fennec Fox actually drafted all 3 of the OG Reggies, which I think is very funny, and potentially really threatening because 2 of them really popped off last season under pilot of Siege. They're just serving as like near unshiftable defensive walls. Regirock and Registeel are just so chunky, it's hard to shift. And I thought, okay, what's a mon that we have that can also set up defensively? Because usually the Regis want to run like an iron defense, body press kind of thing, or heavy slam. So I thought, okay, how do we beat that? Well, let's do the same thing. So what's our answer? Corviknight. Corviknight, I just thought would be pretty good. And lastly, and maybe not even leastly, is Quagsire. And the Quagsire in my book was, it was brought literally for the reason why it made its name into OU, like back in like Gen 6 or whatever, because it's got unaware, and now it's too stupid to know what a stat change is. And into the potential of like maybe like Jolteon or Milotic or something setting up. Quagsire just comes in, just kind of goes, oh, what? And then it can kind of play like a slower paced game with like some status or whatever. I forgot what else is on this thing, but I know it had Toxic.
Yeah, it's got Toxic, you can do like Amnesia setup shenanigans. It's like got decent damage with Liquidation and Earthquake.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just an overall really good wall. And of course, we know Water Ground is one of the really good type combos in this game.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, Quagsire, I think Quagsire is like a little bit underrated by this draft group. So I'm glad that somebody picked it up.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe Hatri told me it got drafted because she originally wanted Clodsire, but someone picked it up before in this in that same rotation. So she was like, fine, I'll take the other one. And here we are with Quagsire. And I'm happy that Quagsire is here too. I think Water Ground is a great typing, only really crying in front of that Serena, but there are things to deal with it. Speaking of Serena, Fennec's team I think is actually quite threatening in a way that in the prep I kind of expected to see a good number of these. Cinderace kind of felt like a no-brainer. It's really fast, it's really offensive. With its budget version of Protean and Libero, it can also get stabbed on pretty much any of its coverage moves, and I think high jump kick is the one I was most afraid of. But still gets like good moves like Pyro Ball. I think it gets U-turn. It gets a pivot move.
U-turn, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So really good offensive mon, a bit of a jack of all offensive trade, with as far as physical is concerned.
Yeah, for sure.
The Jolteon I kind of was expecting to see to an extent, but I wasn't 100% sure what it was going to try to do, because I think Jolteon also has access to just a lot of options, despite its like, oh, it's just an electric type, but it gets T-Wave, it gets good electric stab, it has the ability to Terra, I believe.
Yes, yeah, I can Terra.
So it could easily shed its ground weakness and pick up grass typing and just one-shot Quagsire, which I think would have been really scary.
One of the notable buffs that Jolteon picked up in the Indigo Disc DLC is Alluring Voice. So it actually has like a good fairy move that's not Terra Blast.
Oh yeah, that's really nice.
So it's just got that little bit of extra coverage against Dragon fighting Dark, right? That it didn't have before.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's also, something really important to consider. Like, having that in the back is really great. As for this team, we have Melodic. If this is a mod, I feel like if you've been around long enough, you kind of know what it does. Just really good, kind of bulky offensive piece, and it can also play support. It's fairly flexible in that respect. And with like its ability Marvel Scale, it can get really hard to deal with, and also with competitive, you can play like really offensive, sort of like your Defiant boost, like your Defiant users, but special. And I believe it still gets Scald. So
It does still get Scald. Yeah, it's one of the few water types that retained it.
God damn it! Yeah, okay. Even more so, this thing is like pretty spooky.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things you can do with Milotic. It's a Pokemon that I would definitely want to play at some point. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's got the competitive boost for, if you have a lot of Intimidate or other types of debuff moves that your opponent will run. I think one of the other things that, I mean, you can obviously play defensive with like Dragon Tail and that kind of thing. I think something that's a little bit underrated that I feel like people should use more, even though it's like a weird, it feels like a weird move to run, is Dragon Dance.
D-Dance is really unusual, but kind of cool.
Yeah, Milotic, not very good attacks, physical attack obviously, but it's got that good 81 speed where like, if you're at a +1, you are faster than just about everything else in the game.
Yeah, unless it's also like Scarfed or getting boosted or something.
Yeah,
like
unless it's like a Scarf mod, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's got like the Cleave Word thing going for it, which is like
it's got like
cool.
that middle speed stat where like if you can find a turn to get a Dragon Dance, and you usually can because it's pretty bulky, you can actually go to town with like a strong attacking set, especially if you start getting those competitive buffs. Even without
definitely.
the competitive, like just getting a +1 speed on a Pokemon like this is pretty beneficial.
I think what could be something cool, and I'm just gonna comment on this and then we'll watch the game, is potentially like a double dancing, or like a dual boosting move, Milotic. Because I believe, I don't remember this, I think it still gets Calm Mind.
I don't believe it does.
But I feel it gets something.
That's like one of the things that's one of the things that holds it back, I think, is it doesn't get like a good special attack boosting setup move.
That's fine. Switch it onto an Intimidate user, soak the boost, and then you Dragon Dance.
Yeah.
I think that could be funny.
Also, like a funny niche tech against like sticky web teams and stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming on the -1 speed, get a +2, and then you don't give a shit really about being slow. You'll just kill them.
Boost yourself back up.
Yeah.
Or you can kill them, right? So.
Oh, and there's also Toxicroak. Yeah, I don't know. It's Toxicroak. It's pretty offensive. Poison Touch or Dry Skin. I think Dry Skin's funny into this matchup. If you read the water move, you can kind of get like the free heal.
I mean, it's an added immunity, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's always a really powerful thing.
And
Toxicroak.
it's an immunity to water, which is like really nice because even though water absorbs a thing, not a lot of things get water absorbed. So having that option to switch into potentially Iron Bundle or Quagsire to soak a water move is like actually kind of nice. But anyway, let's watch this game. Yippee yahoo wahoo yay. Here's the leads. It's Tinkaton, Little Yachty. Fuck, I forgot that was the name convention. Tinkaton staring down the Ninetales. Ninetales actually going for the early Aurora Veil and living with the Veil, surviving that stab Gigaton Hammer. Hypnosis
quad super effective.
Hypnosis comes out and misses as rocks go up. Oh my god. Hell yeah, this is real Pokemon. Hypnosis gets it on the second turn. But I think now this is really awkward because Fennec is burned like 3 turns of Veil and Snow in front of this Tinkaton, which is not great. The Cinderace comes out, forces out the switch of the Tinkaton as Powerball gets clicked, and Quagsire takes that beautifully because he don't give a shit. He's fucking stupid. And there's the U-turn, bringing in Ninetales to just die to rocks, which I think is a bit of an odd play. Hold on a second. Is there no spinner on this team, or does Serena get spin? I don't remember.
Serena does get rapid spin, yes.
Okay. Because I know Cinderace gets Core Change, but I don't think you really want to be passing Aurora Veil.
Yeah, you don't want to pass your own veil. Yeah.
So Serena
Definitely
comes in,
very
hits
awkward.
Petal Blizzard, a little interesting there. Into the sleeping Tinkaton as U-turn gets clicked, forcing the switch into Cinderace. Tinkaton actually wakes up and gets a knockoff here onto the Cinderace, dropping those boots, which is a big deal, because that means that Cinderace is, his time is, he's on a bit of a clock on the switches. Terra Flying actually comes out as the onto Tinkaton, lets it survive that Pyro Ball. Hammer comes out, does a decent 33, but not quite enough there as it ends up switching out anyway. Back into Quag, soaking another Pyro Ball. Lil Nas X.
Huh.
And there's the court change actually as Quag goes for the recover. That's what I was hoping would happen maybe a little bit sooner, but that's okay. There is a U-turn, bring in Serena as Quag is now staring at this woman plant thing. Earthquake comes out, does no damage, does a little bit of health recovery as Corviknight comes in here. I really like this switch. This is, I think, quite good. Petal Blizzard comes out, does like 80%. Petal Blizzard's physical, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I believe that.
Yes, it is.
good to know.
So it's a good move to use on Serena because Serena's a physical attacker.
Okay, yeah, I feel like there is a better move, but I don't know off the top.
For Serena,
Yeah, at least I would
drop
think.
kick probably.
Yeah, that's what I was
Drop
thinking.
kick
Drop
is like-
kick.
The grass type stab, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Drop
to be
kick.
honest, I would just run Power Whip.
Power
Yeah.
whip, yeah.
Well,
If it's in
anyway,
the sun, you got Solar Blade.
Braylon just died because it actually rolled the para. Unfortunately, this
That's so funny.
this Jolteon hits the T-Volt, gets the para, and then the Braylon loses the roll on the para, going for a Mach Punch, I would assume, to get some chip damage. Anyway, here's a +2 fucking Garchomp. Gets that Earthquake, Milotic down to 90, and gets off a Scale Shot. And to me, I'm like, is this where the game just ends? Because this is now, like, super boosted. There's the Terra Ice Jolteon, but I think at +1 speed, this thing is it's too slow for the Land Shark.
Yeah, unless it's Scarf Jolteon, it's pretty much over here. Or I guess maybe Scarf.
Yeah.
Serena actually gets the crit.
The crit K. I was doing the math. I'm like, how did this kill? But that's a mystery for another time.
It's a crit against a -1 defense Garchomp. So,
Oh, okay. I think that's what I didn't read.
yeah,
then.
-1 from the Scale Shot.
Okay, that makes sense now. It does go down to the Iron Bundle, Little Peep, as Toxicroak actually gets the KO onto Tinkaton.
Not a little peep. Okay.
Oh, my little boy, Little Peep. Here comes Little Peep again, hitting that Ice
So-
Beam, gets that easy KO. And now it's just this lone Cinderace at about half health. Quag comes in, and I believe...
Not much Cinderace can really do in this situation. It's a Quagsire. It's gonna survive at least a
Yeah.
couple hits.
There's the high jump
Pick up the
kick.
KO.
There's the second one. But I believe this is a recover? Hell yeah. Now we're stalling like professionals. There's another high jump kick as I believe it's a toxic? No, recover. Okay. Well, we're back up to full. Hell yeah. And this is just going for, I guess, the best move it can. There's a high jump kick as the toxic finally comes out. And I believe, is this the scam? It's the scam. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
High jump
Rakdos
kick
scam.
misses,
Let's go.
crashes down, and gets the KO. Hell yeah, Quag. Good job, buddy. Really, actually a quite good game here. I didn't look at chat. I think Steal and named Iron True. Thanks, Future Paradoxes. Pray to RNGs. Or not. But yeah, this is, I think, a pretty interesting game here. The positioning, I think, there was, I think, one big mistake potentially, and that was switching the Jolteon while I was staring at the Garchomp, because if that had Terra, because it had Terra Ice, right? And like it didn't use it.
Yeah, I believe that's
instead
the
just
Terra
switched.
Ice. Yeah. So I think, yeah, once this Garchomp gets to +1 speed, it's kind of over.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it wasn't over because the Serena lucked out on surviving and also the crit, but
but I well
by all rights. the Jolteon turn, yeah, if it stayed in and just clicked Terra Ice, Terra Blast,
Mm-hmm.
um, probably would have, yeah, probably definitely would have picked up the KO.
Absolutely. I know this Garchomp build. It's not a specially defensive chomp. That being said, I did look at that math. It is doable to live a Terra Ice Terra Blast, but it's like you're resigning yourself to do no damage, pretty much.
Yeah, you have to invest really heavily into your bulk, right?
Yeah, it's like max
Yeah.
HP 200 Spadef or some shit. Like
Uh,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, right here, like turn 17, because there's the then it clicks the Volt Switch, but it bonks into the ground type Garchomp that just goes for his swords. If this was Terra Blast Ice, this game would have been very different, I think, into that end game. Because without that boosted Garchomp, going for that end game tear, like there would have been at least a couple more Mons up in the back, and it would have been a lot closer, if anything. But yeah, I think overall this was a really interesting game to watch. It was very fun. Quagsire actually got a kill. Hell yeah. Like the funny little guy.
Technically, Quagsire has a KO.
Look, crashing into a building counts as your KO. I think.
Yeah, forcing the opponent to crash definitely counts, right?
Yeah, because without your protect, the thing dies. Big brain. But yeah, I think, to be honest, I think both of them played actually a pretty tight game. I don't have like too much in the way of like negative critique beside that one turn. And maybe I didn't super like the Ninetales being given away for free either, because it came in, one, while the snow was still up, and two, just actively on top of rocks, and it just died.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see some positioning to attempt a rapid spin there first, or even just a straight up switch out again. Knowing that the Tinkaton can threaten with a steel type move.
Mm-hmm.
I know getting Veil up is very tempting on turn one, but sometimes not taking the hit is better.
Yeah, that was definitely a gamble. Because if this was like,
go on.
I was just gonna say, if the fucking Tinkaton had like 10 more points in attack, this thing would have just killed the Ninetales.
Yeah, I mean, it could have just been a roll too, right? Like if it was a low roll.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was like a mid roll, so it's like, okay, well, that's about average. But still, like, taking that gamble is like super risky and not one that I think should be considered very often. Just because if like you lose that roll, you just like have lost a potentially critical piece to your strategy, and now you've opened up yourself for like a really vulnerable back end, because you're no longer boosted by Veil, and you're no longer you lose out on typing. And Ice Fairy is, I think, really good offensively and fairly decent defensively, so you really want to preserve that, I think, into that mid game potentially. This game maybe not as important because of the 2 steel type Pokemon. And at least, like, Iron Bundle doesn't super care about it, and Breloom can kind of chip it down with, like, Mach Punch. But, still, if the Ninetales was up, would have been a little different. And I think if the Garchomp was dead, this would have been very different.
I mean, even just having additional turns of Veil, like, later in the game is very important, like, in a baseline, right? But, yeah, especially knowing that you have like a Milotic that can take the Gigaton Hammer pretty comfortably, assuming it's defensive.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well just switch into that and try to position a bit better to get your Veil up on a later turn.
Definitely, and yeah, something to consider. I think another another kind of questionable choice was like leaving that first 3 turns to kind of, in a way, stall at your own Aurora Veil, because I think Fennec was really hell-bent on trying to get that Hypnosis down, but like, let's say the Hypnosis missed on the second click, Tinkaton could have gone for a KO, like probably just the KO straight up, and then now you've burned through 4 of your own turns of Veil, and you're down a Pokemon just immediately.
Yeah.
I think switching out there would have been okay. Like, after you missed the first Hypnosis, like, I probably would have switched. But, like, in another world, it's also not a bad read to to stay in click hypnosis, because if you land it onto like Iron Bundle, that's basically just a KO.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
So I think that, there is a world where it is a good move, like a good thing, but also like I think I would have preferred to position something like an offensive piece, maybe the Jolteon, maybe even the Serena behind the Veil to just start threatening stuff, and then like you're not as threatened by other things because you're backed up by your Veil, but that's okay. Um, just things to consider
Yeah, I mean,
for
I think this
future.
is Fox's like first real like competitive game. So
Hmm.
definitely still has things to learn, but all things considered, like not a bad showing for a first game, right?
Oh no, absolutely not.
So you can definitely tell that like they have the general flow of Pokemon down,
Hmm. Yeah, it's
but
just getting maybe a little bit
she's
more
still
comfortable with it.
right. Yeah, definitely she's still getting comfortable with learning like exactly how to navigate the game in a competitive sense.
For sure. And that is, I think, maybe the hardest part of like doing these like draft event, like these leagues, is like if you're brand spanking new, like this is like, oh, this is my first time playing competitive Pokemon. Yeah, I can totally understand. It can be kind of daunting, and a lot to navigate and kind of learn. Um, but at least you can do it here, you know, and have a lot of people who are like super open to helping, and it's not the Wild West of dear God, why did you play ladder type type thing.
Yeah, I mean we've definitely got resources and are willing to help. I mean, I do think ladder is like a good environment to learn like the flow of the game, but obviously it's not as friendly. So yeah, there's some definite downsides to trying to just learn on your own. Like
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just the big thing really is like having all those positive resources versus kind of going at it on your own. I think
yeah,
just makes a big difference in like the learning process.
yeah, absolutely. But that's why we're here, right? I mean, we're here to facilitate player growth and learning and to provide as good advice as we can when we can.
True. And now we have our last game here. It's Clear River versus Sirag. Um,
Ooh.
this one is going to be interesting because this was a 6-0. And in my book, 6-0s have never been interesting. But this is a 6-0 with two new players. So I have no basis of who knows how to do what against what. I don't know where their knowledge levels are at. I know Sirag has been putting in a lot of time trying to figure out builds, and trying to really understand how competitive Pokemon works, and I think that's awesome. And Clear River, I think, has also been putting in a pretty healthy amount of work. I mean, look at first look, I think both teams are looking pretty good. Lots of like kind of cool pieces, and also Lantern. But like, for Clear River, I really like the Rotom Heat, and like Palafin kind of thing he's got going on. Go-Goat I think is questionable because Rillaboom I think is in his draft.
And
But
there's a Go-Goat in this team.
yeah, I mean, my man's could be seeing something that we're not. Like I wasn't sure what his vision was with this, but I mean, if he makes Go-Go work this season, I'll eat like a slipper or something. I don't know.
Huh.
But definitely big fan of Rotom Heat, big fan of Tornado Therian, big fan of Palafin. I've been wanting a Palafin game, and I think this is the first one we're gonna be seeing, at least for week 1. I don't remember if anyone else in even the other division had Palafin working. But we'll see if this one got to do something. And then there's also Smeargle, which I don't need to say anything. It's a Smeargle. Like, it can do actually whatever it wants.
It's a really good Pokemon.
It is a very good Pokemon. Granted, it's made of wet tissue paper, but otherwise, it has access to every support option in the game. Like, it can do most things.
Also, every offensive option in the game.
True, but also it's based 20 it's offensive stats, so I don't know about that.
Shout out to Technician Shell Smash Population Bomb.
In the immortal words of False Swipe Gaming, unfortunately,
True.
Sacred Blast Bolt Beam is not really a thing you can run on Smeargle.
If only.
Yeah,
If
I
only.
mean, it takes a bit more work to make offensive Smeargle go, but I think there's definitely some possibilities there.
There's a world for it. I don't think
Yeah.
we live in that world, at least for now, but there's a world for it. But let's talk about real quick Sirag's team here. I saw this team and shit myself because I was like, this is another team that's average points cost is like 16. He's rocking
I looked at this
Kyurem.
team.
He's rocking Goldango. He's got Bestie, Ogerpon, Wellspring, my beloved.
Yeah. I looked at this team. I was like, this team is a Darkrai and like a Gliscor short of being OU.
Pretty much. Like, you switch like the Infernape and the Articuno, and that's an OU team.
Yeah.
Like, I super like this team.
Very scary team for sure.
Something I was actually, when people were asking me about like how do you build a team? Like, what do you look for when you build a team? I mentioned, I personally really like having the Fire, Water, Grass core. It's like it's a very common fundamental, approach to team building. But with the Ogerpon variants now existing, I even more so really like Fire, Water, Grass cores because you can roll compress. And looking at this team, Sirag hella roll compressed by bringing his Water Grass as one thing and also a monkey. So it's like it's not a defensive Fire, Water, Grass core, but it's a crazy offensive one, and I think that's rad. Like, the maybe the least immediately offensive piece, I guess, is like maybe Glim, but even then, Glimora can get set
Glimora
up.
is a hyper offense mon, man.
Yeah, the Glimora's a yeah.
Yeah, this is like pretty pure HO right here, I think.
It's unadulterated, unwavering, punch you in the face energy, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, this team is violence incarnate, and I'm so excited. I guess that's how it ended with a 6-0, but I don't. Let's find out how it happened. There's the Smeargle
I remember
lead.
this game being pretty fast.
Staring down
Glim.
Glimora. Yeah, pretty
Classic lead.
What I
Gen 9 lead
expected.
situation.
Stealthrock comes up off the Glimora as it gets stuffed by a Spore, but here comes the Articuno Galar, and there's a sticky one.
Cantonian colored Galarian Articuno,
Oh my god, he goes for the agility. Okay.
and it begins.
I think this is like the greediest stay-in of your life. You stay in on agility to get stealth rocks up. That's just like
Yeah, that is
super scary.
that is
Ancient
beyond
power, by the
insane.
way.
Boy,
There's the ancient. There's the weakness policy.
weakness policy. Jesus.
Yeah. Ancient power
Here we go.
is a crazy tech choice,
I
but
was,
very funny.
I was talking to him about it, and he's like, "Yeah, it was good against Rotom." I'm like, "That's fair." But also, in my head, I'm like, I would play it for the Omniboost. I don't give a shit about Rotom.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it's good against Tornadus too. Well, Tornadus.
He gets an
Oh!
Omniboost. this
Bleak
game.
Wind Mist strikes
He
again.
also misses. Yeah.
Omniboost?
And
That's it? This one? No.
no, it's the next one. I think
Okay.
it's the
Yeah, I
next one.
remember it was like one of these. Here's a Palafin.
Harry the
Um,
Palafin.
Perry.
There was a
Hey
Palafin.
guys.
Oh,
Okay.
Perry. He died.
Rotom. It's got
Okay.
shoes. Is it this one?
and
Oh.
There's the
doesn't
Omniboost.
need it. There it is. Oh my god.
So, quick math. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is a 13 boosted Articuno, so that's a base 280 stored power.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's Somehow, I don't think you're gonna live that, even with an unaware guy.
No, I don't think you
Um,
are. And there's the gunshot.
Okay. Oh no.
God.
And there's the go-go, takes the hazards, and there's a gunshot.
No Terra Dark here.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh man. 13 turn game.
Yeah.
By far the fastest one I think we've had in all of
And
week
that's
one.
what happens when you greed for double hazards against the setup guy.
Oh,
Yeah, to be honest, I think clicking. Okay, I think turn one was fine. Maybe not actually. Sleeping the Glim kind of was like almost a
Sleeping, yeah,
waste.
Glim is like the worst Pokemon to sleep on this team.
Yeah, this is the least threatening piece because you also have
Yeah.
Kyurem, Ogerpon, Gold. You can't sleep Goldengo, but you have Kyurem, Ogerpon, and Articuno that are all
Even sleeping the
much better
Infernape
sleeping
is pretty
targets.
strong, right?
Yeah, I think
Because
it's actually like now that I think about it, it's quite good.
I think one important thing to note about like the Infernape in this team comp in particular is that like it's the one source of priority besides maybe like
Hmm.
Ogerpon Quick Attack. Um, but like if this is like a special attacker Infernape with like Vacuum Wave,
Oh yeah,
uh,
that's really scary actually.
like that's one of those mons where it's like if you sleep their one source of prio, then your sticky web becomes much more effective as well, right? Like that's just
Hmm.
another condition you can play towards. But yeah, I mean greeting for the double hazard against the Articuno, which is like well, one, it's a pretty well documented setup mon. Like usually it's going to be a setup set.
Yeah.
And two, like especially after you saw the agility, like you've got to know that it's gonna be something else aside from the agility.
Hmm. I think had he brought, and like I don't know, I don't think this is like a very common take on Smeargle, but potentially having taunt may have fared pretty well because if you're gonna greed to stay in as a Smeargle, you might as well have something to prevent you from getting set up on completely.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think like I almost said Encore, but like Smeargle does not threaten out Articuno. Articuno would gladly set up to +6 speed, doesn't give a shit. And then still, like, even though you don't get the special attack boost from Calm Mind, you're still looking at like a 100 base power store power just off of agility boosts. Which is like still not bad. So I don't know. Like, I think also potentially like let's assume turn one was the same. Like you Spore, Glim, sure, whatever. I think on two you don't sticky web because you're like what I guess you can slow down everything else on the team, but like I don't think that realistically will save you.
I think hitting webs on 2 is fine. I think hitting Stealth Rock on 3 is the really greedy play.
I think you do one, not the other. Like
Yeah.
you don't getting both off was like super thirsty. I was thinking you go for rocks because if you can somehow force out the Articuno, it now has to come in onto rocks. Especially
Yeah,
now
I
that you know
definitely
that it's weakness policy, so it's going to take the rocks damage.
yeah, I definitely well, I mean you wouldn't know that it's weakness policy at that point, right?
Still, like
But
you can at the very least, like if you think it's not boots, like you can go for the rocks, potentially try to force it out. But yeah, I think it literally was just those first like turn 2 to 3 pretty much was like the death knell. Because had like let's say you switch, like let's say you don't set up the second hazard, right? You go for the switch as Articuno goes for agility. He still gets off the Calm Mind, I think, but like you could potentially, I don't know, I feel like there's something you could do about maybe paralyzing it or something like that.
yeah, I mean maybe it's better to go for like a Thunder Wave there instead of a T-Bolt, but I'm not sure. That's like a really hard play to make, I think, once you're at that point.
Yeah. Well, the issue is right, like you, if you set up the second hazard or like the first hazard, Articuno had come in, and then once you switch out instead of doing the second hazard, it still gets off the agility, so it'll still get off the Calm Mind to live.
That's true, I suppose.
So it's still like kind of tough there. But something
I think yeah, I think that's a bit of a mind game. Like I think if you switch into Rotom or the Tornadus, I think there's like definitely a chance that Sarag gets like quote unquote baited into hitting Ancient Power instead of boosting,
Yeah.
and then you have like a bit better odds for getting a KO.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, because if it's
yeah,
like an
again,
unboosted Ancient, you're not gonna die. And obviously, he only could two-shot like Rotom and Tornadus with Ancient Power.
yeah.
Um,
So
I think
yeah,
something also I want to just comment on is this Palafin apparently didn't have Jet Punch.
yeah, that's also a big thing.
And instead of just going for the hard manual switch, I think he was trying to flip turn or something. I don't know. It was mentioned to me after this game like took place, but I don't remember exactly what it had. But for me, the fact that it didn't have Jet Punch and it didn't have and it didn't pivot out immediately is like kind of a red flag. Like I feel like with
Yeah.
Palafin, you always want to try to get to its hero form. Like very rarely will you leave it in 0 because you're just not getting all those juicy stats. But also like not having Jet Punch because like is just kind of questionable, since to me Jet Punch is probably one of the best priority moves in the game, partially because it only can come off of a base 160 physical attack stat. Probably would have killed Articuno because it has no physical defense boost until the Omni boost at the very end of the game. Like that could have killed it. So there I think Palafin has some flexibility with like its utility options, and I think that is like kind of cool to think about. But I feel like there is always maybe one or two moves that you should always be considering, and it's Jet Punch and probably something else.
Yeah, definitely agreed, especially in this kind of matchup. Like, if you look at Sirag's overall draft, his draft is actually fairly weak to physical attackers.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of things like the Kyurem, which obviously is just bulky all around. There's not like a really good physically defensive tank mon on that team. Like even Snorlax is weaker physically than it is specially.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just like knowing that and knowing that you have this really giga strong physical attacker in the Palafin, you definitely want to consider taking a priority move there just in case of getting set up like this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Also worth mentioning, if you look at both teams, both players, realistically, I don't want, like, we can say, oh, Ogerpunk can have quick attack, who cares? It's not going to. But like the fact that there's only one sort of major priority from both players, Vacuum Wave off and Fernape, and I think literally just a Jet Punch off of Palafin, is pretty huge, because without, if there was another Mon with priority, like I'm thinking if there was like a King Gambit or a Bisharper even with Sucker Punch, this Articuno is dead,
Right.
So not having that priority option, at least on this game, and with in this particular matchup, I think is really, really hurtful. So I think for Clear River, that's something to really think about. Palafin, I think having utility moves on Palafin is actually really cool because it's respectably fast. It's like 100. It's like 100 or something.
Yeah, I believe it's 100 base speed. Yeah.
Which is like that's workable. That's very workable.
Yeah, it's good.
But I think always having in the back of your mind, like, okay, once it turns into a hero, it has the attack stat of like Mega Groudon. Like, you probably want to be capitalizing on that if you can, especially when you have, a base 60 stab physical, priority move coming off of Groudon's attack stat, or Primal Groudon's attack stat. It's something that I feel like you'd just be a little remiss not to take. But holy shit, Sirag with the 6-0 with the fully set up bird. When I saw Ancient Power, I was like, this guy's fucking greedy. And turns out it kind of was. But it worked.
It's a little bit greedy. I mean, Ancient Power is one of those moves where it's like, it's usually like a tech choice if you're really desperate for coverage.
Mhm.
but sometimes you can just play it for the chance at the boost. I mean, 10%, obviously not very reliable, but hey, if it works out, it works out. And in this case, it was pretty good coverage, and I guess it won the game.
Yeah, I suppose. I think by the time it came out with the Omni Boost, it was like, in my mind, I'm like, this game's probably already
Yeah.
over. I
Yeah,
think
the,
it
the
just.
Omni boost was kind of not necessary at the end, but
I guess it was funny to now conceptualize, like, oh, this now has a base to almost 300 psychic stab move? I
yeah,
guess. But other than that, I think this Articuno got to really shine, and nothing else did.
yeah, we just didn't see anything else come out. I mean, we saw Stealth Rocks on Glamora. Wow,
Yep,
what a crazy set.
we saw one, and it's exactly what everyone takes, and then we saw an Articuno win the game.
Yep.
For better or worse, I'm curious to see how Sirag navigates his next opponents. I think you're one of them in the first couple weeks. So that'll be pretty funny to watch. I swear to God, if Articuno sweeps again, I'm gonna eat my other slipper that I said I would eat if Go-Go won something. Um, but we'll find out, I think, as we go through the season. But as far as the Unova division, that is all of the games I think we're reacting to today because there's too many, and I want to play Elden Ring. But overall, I'm very satisfied for this first week of games.
Yeah.
Unova division really proving itself to be the sweaty division.
Yeah, for real.
But it makes for some real nail biter, like edge of your seat kind of games, and I'm a big fan of those. Really, really liking watching these. And tomorrow we'll probably find out if Kalos is able to do the same.
Well, I will certainly have more to say about that division because I'm in it. But yeah, we got some fun games in the Kalos division coming up for week 1. And I hope week 3 as well, but definitely in week 1.
Yeah. I was about to say you
we'll
have
be
a
looking forward. Yes, always.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so we'll definitely have more to talk about them.
For sure. And with that, I think that's pretty much all we got here for today. Thank you to my 2 unpaid other admins for being here. We'll be back doing this tomorrow, reacting to the Kalos Division games. And something that if there are active people looking at this chat and listening, let me know either in chat or throw a rock in my DMs or something. Let us know if you guys like the full form recaps or if you guys would prefer just highlighting certain games. Because over the course of the season, we're probably going to be looking at well over 100+ games. So if you guys are liking the longer form, react to everything probably over the course of like 2 days and 2 streams, I think we're down to do it. But also if people would prefer like, oh, just ping me once a week or something, I think it's also fine that we can just do like one game. Maybe we pick our top 5 favorite games and we do maybe a little bit longer of a review on those. So I'm seeing
Sounds
already
good.
in chat, this is fun, especially new players to see. Strats agree. Okay, well, if you guys like the long ones, sure, fuck it, I'm down. Like, I don't mind.
Yeah. You mind if I give a pitch real quick too before we sign off?
That depends.
Ooh.
Is it for the web store and our shirts?
I mean, yeah, that too. Are we doing that actually?
Probably. I don't know. I have to yell at my artist.
At some point. But yeah, another thing I want to just mention for the people, for anyone who's watching, I guess this is more for the players specifically. But if you guys want to do specific game reviews, like I know we kind of talk a little bit about plays that could have been better and times where people made certain mistakes. But if you want like a more in-depth review of that, I'm willing to do that. Like just go ahead and just send me your team pace, and I'll kind of review it from your point of view, like saying what plays like I would have made or like places that plays could have been better. And I'll record it and I'll upload it to my YouTube, which is gonna be separate on a separate channel. But yeah, if you guys want to see that, let me know, and I'm down to do that.
This motherfucker plugging his own shit.
I mean, this is more. I mean, this is not like something I'm doing
Nah,
for.
just fucking kidding. Yeah,
I mean,
it's for the community. You know, I don't see.
Yeah,
shit.
it's something that I just want to do. You know, if people are interested in having that kind of different type of analysis, for for their own improvement, and improving their own play.
Alternatively, if you prefer to get made fun of, let me know.
Oh yeah, if you want to get made fun of, then I'll just invite Mr. Corn here on the review.
I'll
and
do
then
that
he'll
for
laugh at
free.
you the
I'll
whole
pay.
time.
I'll pay
Yeah.
you. I'll Venmo you like $1, and I'll be like, hey, you fucking suck.
I have nothing to plug. I have nothing to plug. I'm here. Hello.
Hell yeah. You go plug your phone into the charger. I don't know.
But that's actually not a bad idea. What's my phone charge at? Oh, it's at 88. It's fine.
Oh, you're never mind. Who's the one offering the views for offering views? That's Ventus.
Yeah, all right. I'm Ventus. Yeah, you can ping me in the Discord. You can DM me on Discord. I'm pretty much available if you want me to go through your gameplay like that. Just let me know.
I'm also available to help with prep. I don't know how helpful I'll be going through games piece by piece after they happen, but if you want draft help, let me know too. I am Mox Rayo on the server.
Fuck all you players. I'm just kidding.
Hey.
What?
You're
Yeah?
you're the league host, man.
I
You
sure
gotta
am.
Look, you may have rights here, but
I have left
we don't
too.
have to play the games.
Well, anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I'm gonna fucking do a little hey whoop. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate it. You guys can keep an eye out for more of these. If you're not already following this channel, please do so. It makes my dopamine go off. I don't get a lot of that anymore because I work and I hate it. But yeah, if you guys are enjoying this, hit that follow or whatever. And if you don't watch these streams live, do not fret. All replays are getting uploaded to my YouTube channel. I believe it's just Glorious Corn, like 42 or something like that. I don't remember. So you guys are welcome to watch those there. And yeah, I don't know, there were plugs, but we will catch you guys in the next one. And yeah, hope you guys have a good night. I'm gonna go play Elden Ring. Bye bye.